Ladies and gentlemen, what do you get when a movie director and two screenwriters who have, presumably, no idea how a SWAT raid works team up to create a movie? You get that. Yes, folks, I was recently watching RIPD, starring Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds as police officers working for the Rest in Peace Department. A very funny pun. It's a buddy cop movie where the cops are dead, and their job is to find souls of the deceased who have decided to hide on Earth to avoid judgment in the afterlife. Except Bridges and Reynolds don't really enforce laws. Being an RIPD officer is more like being a bounty hunter, but instead of being paid the bounty, they get a good recommendation when it's their turn to be judged. I'm not saying it's a great premise, but I did enjoy the movie, and I just learned now that it was based on a comic book, which is pretty fun. I might go read it. If you don't want spoilers, end this video here. Watch the movie, read the comic book, which apparently there are a lot of differences, so it might not really matter. But after that happens, come back if you want to. But if you're ready to watch me get angry about a few things, let's keep going. The beginning of the movie shows Reynolds very much alive and working as a detective for the Boston Police Department. And we very quickly learn that he and his partner, played by Kevin Bacon, that's right, there's another blue bacon in this, little joke there, are corrupt. We find out that they are corrupt. A conversation between the two men reveals that they conducted a drug bust and found several large pieces of gold, which they decided to keep. Bacon wanted to keep it to buy a speedboat, and Reynolds wanted to keep it to secure financial stability for his fiancée. And can you blame him when a Boston Police Department detective only made six figures in 2013? Wow, that's the year the movie was released, by the way, 2013. Six figures. Hold on, let me go check that. This is the 2013 police officer salary chart from Boston, which shows that the day one starting salary for a police officer, not a detective, is $58,454.69. Nice. A detective is going to be paid more than that, but we won't worry about it. The reason I'm using this number at all is because I have the salary data for every detective in the Boston Police Department from 2013. It's public, but some of them were paid $0 or merely a few thousand, which is skewing my numbers. I assume they were hired late in the pay period or they were on leave or something. I'm not saying that they were just working for, I don't know why they were paid $0, okay? I know that they are. I know that my data is getting skewed. If we select column B and filter it to only include police detectives, that gives us 289 salaries between cells 9,396 and 9,685. We can then use an average if formula to average all salaries equal to or greater than 58,454.69, which gives us 72,987.40. Keeping up, great. But that's not six figures, you might be saying. Well, that's because I haven't factored in overtime, which averages to $38,177.06. But if we include injury pay and extra detail pay, we actually get an average yearly income of $130,190.75. What? That's insane. $132,190.75 is not an insignificant amount, but the value of a salary is dependent on the area in which it is spent. It's not cheap to live in Boston. So if we look at how expensive it was to live in Boston in 2013, specifically regarding real estate, we will need to know exactly what part of Boston Reynolds lives in. We see his fiancée leave the house and go for a run here, which then cuts to a drone shot of her running up to the Bunker Hill Monument, which places them probably in the Charlestown neighborhood. This 2013 real estate data sets the median sale price of a home at $525,000, which isn't outside the reach of a $130,000 a year salary. If it's really such a problem, then I guess they could look for a place in Mattapan. It's 25 minutes from the place they're at now. The rent would drop from $2,500 a month to $1,500 a month. You can start saving up, get a good credit score, and look for a place to own within a reasonable amount of time. I'd give you the distance from where he works instead of where we think he lives, but even though it would be almost certainly more relevant, it appears he works at 31 Chambers Street in New York City. So, not super helpful. This isn't even the thing I meant to talk about during this video. It's just, it always bothers me when movies and shows are like, oh no, this police officer is struggling financially because of this salary in this expensive city. Overtime is part of the job, and overtime pays extra. I get if you're looking at like, wow, they're only paid a salary of like maybe $60,000 a year in Boston. That's not nearly enough. Police officers, oh my goodness, very rarely, I'm going off a tangent here, this isn't scripted, very rarely get the actual salary base. oh boy, does it go up, because you don't really get to say no to overtime. If you arrest somebody at the end of your shift, you got to stay late and do that paperwork and process them. And that's just police work. That's not even detective work. The thing that I actually wanted to talk about was this. After Reynolds tells Bacon that he is changing his mind about keeping the gold, a detective informs him that an informant provided the location of a meth operation and the man who was running it, which would absolutely be a big deal, but not such a big deal that this would be happening. What possible benefit would that provide? This isn't a protection detail. The president isn't in one of those vehicles. You're heading towards a location you suspect has a lot of meth. You drive this close if the goal was to prohibit any vehicle from entering your convoy, but why would that matter here? What possible benefit would that provide? I say it again because I really would love to know. I'm not trying to spit all over this movie. I enjoyed this movie. I liked it. But writers, director, I know the answer is because it looks cool and we were able to do it. And it does look cool, and you were able to do it. Congratulations. But you got to do more than that. There's got to be more of a reason than that. Right? No? Now, this is a good time to say that I've never worked for the Boston Police Department. I don't know their tactics and training. But I was military police, and I did work in counter-narcotics, and I've retained a smattering of knowledge regarding what does or does not make tactical sense. So when we cut to this scene, where a Dodge Challenger with a base price that's starting the least amount of money you could spend on a Dodge Challenger in 2013 was $36,352.82, adjusted for inflation, crashes through a metal fence, chain, and padlock at a rate of speed high enough to cause a loss of control here, I can tell you that it does not make tactical sense to use this vehicle when you have an armored truck right behind it. Also, something that's not actually important, but that vehicle would either be a personal vehicle, which no, it wouldn't be, because that wouldn't be allowed on this operation, or it's an undercover vehicle probably used by counter-narcotics. This would be a vehicle that was likely seized during a drug raid or operation and is now used to basically fit in to the local drug scene. But also probably wouldn't be used for this operation, because why would you risk this vehicle that's way more expensive than all the other vehicles that you probably have at your disposal? That's unlikely. One, that it's even there. Two, that you're using it to break through a gate. And three, that it takes this little damage. I don't think it took any damage. I know it's a movie, but you have an armored truck behind it. Why? There's no good reason for this, other than it looks cool. You know what else looks cool? An armored truck going through the gate. That would look just as cool, if not cooler. Because now I'm less immersed because I'm worried about that Challenger. Meanwhile, you have a police helicopter giving away your element of surprise, which must have been important if you're moving this fast. And let's not forget that this situation is dangerous enough to require SWAT, but not so dangerous that these officers need to be wearing rifle-rated plates for protection. Bacon isn't even wearing any body armor at all, which makes sense for the plot. I won't explain why. Watch the movie. But it does make sense. But an officer would have pulled him aside, God, I would hope, and say, hey, man, maybe you shouldn't be breaching that door. Maybe you should sit this one out because you are not competent enough to think to wear body armor to a situation where SWAT has been called. Follow up to the armor issue. Why are Reynolds and Bacon entering first when they have a shield behind them? I would hope that the person with the shield, who should be going first, would have been trained to not stop in the middle of a doorway where the bright light behind you would outline exactly where you were, and where every bad guy would know to start shooting the moment that the door was breached, because, hey, the helicopter gave away the element of surprise. So they know it's about to go down. It's called a fatal funnel for a reason, but thank goodness they survived long enough to stop every officer from using that doorway behind them. Next, we have some sort of bunny hopping situation, which is a tactic that can be very effective, just not here and not by that name and not like that. I'm guessing it's a variation on bounding Overwatch, where your partner looks for the enemy with the intent to provide suppressive fire if the enemy appears, while you move to an advantageous position. And then once you reach that position, you look for the enemy while they move to their new position. But you don't do it 5 feet at a time. In this scenario, based on my own training to clear buildings when there's an active shooter, doctrine would likely dictate that they move together, probably shoulder to shoulder. Crossing that T intersection like that is a great way to unnecessarily risk your life, as is walking down a hallway without paying attention to or noticing the fact that the walls are windows which the bad guys can see through. Let's not forget the importance of taking pot shots at some hazy figures that would be hard to confirm were an imminent threat in a court of law within a building full of police officers entering whatever door they damn well please and running around without communicating their movements. Go to the comments section and explain to me why those are or are not police officers that he's shooting at. Oh, is he on the roof? The place without an exit? Where is he going to go? Everything is absolute chaos. People are shooting from all directions. Objects are exploding. Why are you chasing him to a dead end? Even if you caught him, you would still have to extract him from that building while being shot at, or you would have to sit there and hope the fighting would be over before the building burned down around you. Let's roll this back and look at what maybe should have happened, using real-world examples. First, we already know that it doesn't make sense to have the armored vehicle anywhere but the front. It doesn't make sense to have the helicopter that close to the building before officers are staged and ready to go, or ever, really, if there is a risk that it might be shot at. Speaking of staging, there wasn't any. People just drove in, parked what they wanted, and did what they wanted. The police knew who the guy was. They knew this raid would be dangerous enough to require all of these assets, so why wouldn't they just establish a perimeter and wait? Instead of rushing in, they should have just blocked the entrances and exits. Oh no, the people in the building might destroy the evidence? Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to get rid of that many guns and all of those dangerous, explosive, and toxic materials by the time the police get this situation sorted. And it's not like they didn't have time to come up with this plan. A warrant would have been needed for this raid, and a judge would not only have to be convinced that a no-knock raid was appropriate for this, but also that the confidential informant's information was credible. This might require surveillance at the location to confirm it. A risk assessment would probably need to be conducted to determine that this many assets were needed, and that takes time. It also takes time to coordinate between SWAT, detectives, patrols, and a helicopter to make sure everybody is in on the situation and arrives at the same time. You think that all these people getting there at the same time is normal? Okay, well, the helicopter arrived early. So you know what? My point exactly. And then why is everybody in such a rush? This is an enormous operation. It isn't going to be packed up and moved in a day. This is a video of FBI agents looking for the Boston Marathon bomber in 2013. You notice how they're kind of taking it slow and being methodical? Here's another one involving FBI and local law enforcement looking for the bomber. Slow and methodical. Here's Boston SWAT conducting a 13-hour standoff with someone who shot 2 people in 2023. Notice that they aren't crashing a Challenger through the front door. And then here's a video from that same year where we see local law enforcement wearing rifle-rated ballistic armor while searching for a person who discharged a firearm and didn't even hit anyone. Kevin Bacon, eat your heart out. I want the writers and the director to justify their choices in this scene. Action is cool isn't going to cut it. You could have had an incredible action scene without making it this dumb. Was it fun? Yes, it was very fun. Was it dumb? Also, yes. Do keep in mind, I liked the movie, but this nonsense was absolutely avoidable. You don't believe me? I'll rewrite the script for you. Keep this scene. It's great, but space the cars out. Keep that drift if you want, but have the purpose of that drift to get the Challenger out of the way so that the armored vehicle, the SWAT truck, can break through the fence. Have Reynolds exit the Challenger and then jog into the compound, gun at the low ready. He taps a patrol car that's coming in. They provide cover. He's behind the engine block. He meets up behind the SWAT truck where they have the Tactical Operations Command. He's talking to them. They say something important to the plot. Something like, we have confirmation that all avenues in or out are blocked and the perimeter is secure. Suddenly, shots are fired from the building. SWAT stacks up to move in. Reynolds pops around to the side of the truck to shoot someone out of a window. Cue the Wilhelm scream. Bacon joins Reynolds at the truck. Says something witty. Cut to the inside of the building. It's dark. It's actually SWAT is tactically clearing a hallway. Guns are blazing in a reasonable and practical way until they get to a large, dark room. Silence. Cut to the exterior, where officers are slowly starting to poke their heads out from behind cover. Cut back to the interior. The darkness is extinguished by intense headlights. The angry growl of an engine fills the air. It turns out the man they're after has an armored truck of his own. The truck accelerates toward the SWAT team, who dive out of the way, and it crashes through the brick wall of the building, igniting the explosive material stored next to it. You still get your explosions, you still get your action, but now it's almost sensible. A shaky camera zooms in on the truck as it barrels towards the SWAT vehicle. Bacon leans into Reynolds, grabs his vest from behind, and says, "You know what? I've changed my mind about turning the gold," and then trips him as they both lunge out of the way of the truck coming towards them. Reynolds falls into the path of the armored truck and dies, just like he's supposed to in the script, except in the script he does not die by truck, and Bacon, just like in the script, manages to get away unharmed from this scene. It wasn't hard to do that. It would have been an amazing scene, but no, we have to have some nonsense about, the worst police tactics possible just to justify this script that doesn't make sense. It's so fixable. You could have had something that made sense and you chose to do the opposite. Writers, I will fix your terrible police scripts for you for free. Get them into me now before I start charging for it. But if you don't have a script for me to fix, I wouldn't be upset if you hit that like and subscribe button.